You meet someone for the first time. Maybe it is a job interview, maybe it is a new neighbor, maybe it is a friend of a friend at a party. Without even thinking about it, you extend your right hand. They extend theirs. You grip, you shake up and down once or twice, and you let go. The entire exchange takes less than 2 seconds. You have done this hundreds, maybe thousands of times in your life, and you have almost never questioned it. But here is what almost nobody thinks about in that moment. You are pressing your palm, one of the dirtiest surfaces on your entire body, directly against a stranger's palm. And then you are probably going to touch your face within the next few minutes. So why do we still do this? Why did an entire species agree to spread its germs through a formal, repeated, worldwide ritual? And why has almost nothing managed to replace it? Let us go back to where this gesture may have actually started. The earliest visual evidence of a handshake comes from a 9th century BCE stone relief found in the ruins of ancient Assyria, showing the king Shalmaneser III clasping hands with a Babylonian ruler to seal an alliance. Ancient Greek pottery from around the 5th century BCE also shows handshakes, often depicted between soldiers or between the living and the dead in funerary art, symbolizing a final farewell. One popular theory, though historians debate how literal it is, suggests the gesture began as a way to prove you were not holding a weapon. Extending an open palm showed your hand was empty, and the shaking motion was meant to dislodge anything hidden up a sleeve. Whether or not that origin story is completely accurate, the core idea stuck. A handshake became a physical signal of peace and trust between two people who might otherwise have reason to be cautious of each other. For centuries after that, the handshake stayed mostly limited to specific contexts, sealing agreements, greeting soldiers, marking treaties. It was not yet the default greeting for ordinary people meeting each other. That shift gets credited in large part to the Quakers in 17th century England. The Quakers rejected the elaborate bowing and hat-tipping customs of the time because those gestures reinforced social class, deciding who bowed lower to whom. Instead, they promoted the handshake, specifically because it treated everyone the same way. A farmer and a nobleman shook hands exactly the same way. It was a small, physical rebellion against hierarchy, and it slowly spread beyond Quaker communities into everyday European life. By the 19th century, etiquette manuals across Europe and America had fully codified the handshake as the standard greeting between men in business and social settings, complete with specific rules about grip strength, eye contact, and duration. Historian Tori Sarah Peters notes that etiquette guides of the era treated a weak handshake as a genuine character flaw, a sign of someone not to be trusted. By the 20th century, the handshake had become close to universal across Western business culture, and through colonization and globalization, it spread even further, eventually becoming one of the most recognized greetings on the planet. Now here is where the story gets uncomfortable. Once modern science developed germ theory in the late 1800s, we suddenly understood something the previous several thousand years of handshaking had completely ignored. Hands are covered in bacteria and viruses, and every handshake is a direct transfer opportunity. A study published in the American Journal of Infection Control found that handshakes transferred significantly more bacteria than fist bumps, and dramatically more than a simple wave. Researchers at Aberystwyth University in Wales measured this directly, finding that a full handshake transmitted about 10 times more bacteria than a fist bump, and that grip strength and duration both increased how much was exchanged. Public health officials have pointed to the handshake specifically as a measurable contributor to the spread of common colds, flu, and other respiratory illnesses in workplaces and schools. During the COVID-19 pandemic, health organizations worldwide actively recommended replacing handshakes with elbow bumps, waves, or simple nods, and for a brief period, it looked like centuries of habit might finally break. But it did not. Not permanently. As soon as restrictions lifted in most places, the handshake quietly returned to boardrooms, interviews, and introductions almost everywhere. Despite knowing exactly what it spreads, humans largely chose to keep doing it anyway. Why? Because the handshake was never really about hygiene in the first place. It survived plague outbreaks, wars, and pandemics because it does something no elbow bump or nod quite replicates. It requires you to physically close the distance to another person and allow direct contact. And that vulnerability is precisely the point. A firm handshake still signals confidence. A returned handshake still signals acceptance. It is a 2-second ritual that says, "I trust you enough to let you touch me," in a species that spends most of its time avoiding exactly that. So to recap, the handshake likely began as a way to prove you carried no weapon, spread as a symbol of equality through the Quakers, became formalized business etiquette by the 19th century, and turned out, once science caught up, to be a remarkably efficient way to pass germs from one person to another. We have known this for well over a century now, and it has not mattered. The ritual has outlived the science telling us to stop. So the next time you extend your hand to a stranger, remember that you are repeating a gesture that may be nearly 3,000 years old, one that has survived plagues, pandemics, and everything modern medicine has thrown at it. Not because we forgot the risk, but because some rituals are worth more to us than the germs they carry.